Many years ago, there was another popular Christmas tradition, the performance of an ancient morality play, Los Pastores. The play, which followed the shepherd's journey to see the Christ child, was brought to the Southwest in the 17th century by Catholic missionaries as a way to teach their religion to the native people. Early evidence of Los Pastores lives on in books and letters and in a handful of aging photographs. The plays went in and out of favor for over 300 years, but by the 1920s, they had virtually disappeared. Then, in 1981, two scholars from Taos, New Mexico, Arsenio Cordova and Larry Torres, concerned about their rapidly disappearing cultural heritage, decided to restore some of the old, almost forgotten celebrations of their ancestors, including Los Pastores.
And then you say, y nuestro hermano.
Y nuestro hermano Bartolo, ¿por qué no viene a cenar?
Sí.
Eres un gran Dios, nacido en paz.
It seems that for the longest while, these dramas had ceased. And then we were wondering what happened to all of them, because it seems that they were, when you look at the manuscripts that we have on file, either in our files or at the Museum of International Folk Art, the latest ones that we seem to find date to the 1920s. And then you wonder what happened between the 1920s and the 1980s before the revival or the Renaissance comes in all these. And then you realize, look at what's happening in the scope of world affairs. World War I comes, takes all of our men. World War II does exactly the same thing. Korean War, Vietnam War. It isn't until the Vietnam conflict gets resolved that people start coming home and looking again for places that were familiar to them, if not in their own lifetimes, at least things that their parents or grandparents told them, no? And so finally, after all of these interruptions, on a global scale, we can come back to the local scale and do the things that we used to do.
2 weeks before Christmas, Arsenio Cordova and Larry Torres take their troupe of actors and musicians to perform in the nearby villages of the Sangre de Cristo Mountains.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, la Compañía de la Santísima Trinidad and Sangre de Cristo Liturgies presents to you, And Then There Were Shepherds. Who wise and came to worship.
There are at least 12 musical scores in Los Pastores, and they all proceeded. They are all intermixed with the narrative.
Descansan los pastores acostados. Quiero pasar poco a poco las cuentas de mi rosario. Hinco la rodilla en tierra y puesto en cruz los brazos, digo así: Padre nuestro, líbranos de los que nos hacen daño. Uy, Padre nuestro, por encima.
Pero no por encima de mí.
And in it, they talk about that holy night so long ago when the Christ child was born in Bethlehem. But Lucifer, the spirit of evil, had also seen it and decided to go confound them so that they would not go off to worship the newborn king.
¡Ay, mira qué tormentos hay al príncipe Lucifer! Yo, para desvelar a todos los hombres mortales, llamaré a todos los infiernos.
Some of the plays have lines which we thought were just folk music that had been put there. But as we've been studying the literature from South America, from Mexico particularly, and Spain, we know that there was a great, great poet by the name of Luis de Góngora. And Luis de Góngora does some lines which have been transferred over to the devil's lines later on. Among them, aprender flores de mí, lo que fue de ayer a hoy, que ayer maravilla fui, y hoy sombra de mí no soy. Learn flowers from me, from what I used to be. Yesterday I was the marvel of the place, and now I'm not even a shadow of my former self. That's strictly Góngora's work right there.
Es Miguel Arcángel, es verdad, San Miguel Arcángel, que una vez me echaste de los cielos por el pecado de Adán y Eva. Pero ya 2 veces no más de echar. Si quieres que me vaya, has de echarme. Vente, sin este nombrecito, vente. ¡El Altísimo! ¡Ay! Desde el oriente al poniente, planetas de fuego ardiente.
Again, you have to remember that these people did not have microphones. They weren't actors. These were farmers, they were housewives, they were ordinary people who just did this for the love of history, the love of culture. And because of this, they had to remember it in one way or another. That's where the music comes in. The songs that would be most emblematic of Los Pastores are probably the ones toward the end of the narration or the end of the play, because the whole focus is on the birth of the Christ child and the great joy that they're feeling at the very end.
To all of you, Merry Christmas y que Dios los bendiga a todos.
Merry Christmas.